This is my presentation about Helen Keller, written by Caitlin Laren. Helen Keller was born on June 27, 1880, to her father, Arthur H. Keller, and her mother, Kate Adams. Helen Keller is known for being an author, a political activist, and a lecturer. She was also known for being the first deaf-blind person to earn a Bachelor's of Arts degree. Her birthday is the day people commemorate her, and we all call it Helen Keller Day. Helen Keller was born with the ability to see and hear, but at 19 months old, she contracted an illness described by doctors as acute congestion of the stomach and brain, which may have led to scarlet fever or meningitis. The illness left her both deaf and blind. At the time, she was able to communicate somewhat with Martha Washington, 13, the 6-year-old daughter of the family cook, who understood her signs. By age 7, Keller had more than 60 home signs to communicate with her family. Helen Keller's father, Arthur H. Keller, served as a captain for the Confederate Army. Her mother, Kate Adams, had a total of 5 kids. In May of 1888, Helen Keller attended the Perkins Institute for the Blind. In 1894, Helen Keller and Anne Sullivan moved to New York to attend the Wright-Humason School of the Deaf. In 1896, they returned to Massachusetts, and Keller entered the Cambridge School for Young Ladies before gaining admittance to Radcliffe College in 1900. Her admirer, Mark Twain, who had introduced her to the Standard Oil magnate Henry Hutchinson Rogers, paid for her education. In 1904, at the age of 24 years old, Helen Keller graduated from Radcliffe, and also becoming the first deaf-blind person to receive a Bachelor's of Arts degree. Anne Sullivan was a young woman who had experience with deaf and blind people. She eventually became a constant companion to Keller. Keller then ended up moving in with her at Forest Mills, Queens, where it became her base for her efforts on behalf of the American Foundation for the Blind. Anne Sullivan also helped Helen Keller write lots of her novels. Helen Keller went on to be one of the most world-famous speakers and authors. She is remembered for being an advocate for people with disabilities. She was a suffragist, pacifist, and an opponent of Woodrow Wilson. In 1915, George Kessler founded the Helen Keller International Organization, which devoted to research in vision, health, and nutrition. In 1920, she helped found the American Civil Liberties Union. She traveled to 40-some countries with Sullivan, making several trips to Japan. Helen Keller ended up writing a total of 12 published books and several articles. Helen Keller wrote books and numerous articles using either a Braille typewriter or a regular typewriter. In The Story of My Life, she writes, "Her typewriter has no special attachments. She keeps the relative position of the keys by an occasional touch of the little finger on the outer edge of the board." She wrote The Frost King at age 11, which was in 1891. She wrote The Story of My Life at age 22, which was in 1903. She also wrote The World I Live in 1908. Her spiritual autobiography, My Religion, was written in 1927. On September 14, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In 1965, she was elected to the National Women's Hall of Fame at the New York World Fair. In 1955, Helen received an Academy Award for the documentary about her life, Helen Keller, and her story, The Unconquered. She devoted much of her life to raising funds for the American Foundation for the Blind. She had died in her sleep on June 1, 1968. She was just short of her 88th birthday. There was a service held in her honor at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., and her ashes were placed next to her companions Anne Sullivan and Polly Thompson.